Lesson 6.2. Today we're going to be talking about proportional relationships. So last lesson we were talking about proportions and ratios and unit rates. And we made our own unit rates from ratios and charts and things like that. So this time we're going to go ahead and they're going to be giving you information and you have to say whether that information is proportional or not. So first of all we need to figure out what does it mean when they say is it proportional. So basically if you're saying that some data is proportional, basically you're saying two quantities have a constant ratio or rate. So for example, if you were looking at this chart and we have 3 to 1, 6 to 2, 9 to 3, and 12 to 4. We need to figure out, okay, do we have a constant rate? So what I did was I rewrote my little ratios over here, 3 to 1, and I rewrote 6 to 2, and I simplified it, and it gives me 3 to 1. Then I wrote 9 to 3, and it simplifies down to 3 to 1. So basically I see that the unit rates of all of these pairs of numbers, they are the same, so that tells me that we're going up by a certain unit constant rate every time. So what does it look like when you run into an example that looks non-proportional? So if we are given data like this and we have 4 to 1, which is already simplified, and then we have 6 to 2, and we go ahead and simplify 6 to 2, and I divide it out and I found out that the unit rate of 6 to 2 is 3 to 1. So right here, we can already tell that the data is not proportional because 4 to 1 and 3 to 1 are not the same. They're not balanced. So obviously, these two fractions are not proportional. Alright, there's also another term you need to know. It's called the Constant of Proportionality. That's basically a fancy way of saying the unit rate. So last lesson, when we had a ratio and we had to simplify it down to get a 1 in the denominator. Remember, unit means 1. So get a 1 in the denominator, so that is what we're doing here, to just check to see if our data is proportional or not. Alright, let's go ahead and do some drawing. The first thing we're going to do is look at some data in chart form, and we're going to see is the data proportional or not. So first of all, we have the ratio 1 to 3. So 1 to 3 is already in simplest form. Then we have 2 to 6. We have 2 to 6, so we're going to go ahead and simplify that out. So we're going to divide out a 2. And we're going to get 1/3. So far, we're looking pretty proportional. So let's go ahead and continue. If we have 3 to 9, let's divide out a 3, divide out a 3, and we're going to be left with 1/3. So all of this information is proportional because we get the same unit rate. So we would say, yes, it is proportional. Alright, let's go ahead and look at this chart. We're comparing time and distance. And so we are going from 1 to 50. That's already simplified. We have 2 to 70. If we divide out a 2, divide out a 2, we're going to get, how many times does 2 go into 70? 2 goes into 7 about 3 times. So then we're going to go ahead and it goes in about 3 times. You're going to get 6, remainder of 1. Bring down your 0. How many times does 2 go into 10? 5 times. So it goes in 35 times, so we have 1 over 35. Right here I see we have 1 over 50 and 1 to 35. And since our unit rate is not the same, we would say that they are not proportional. Alright, let's go ahead and look at this data. We are comparing the numbers of spiders and the numbers of legs. So here we have 1 to 8. 1 to 8 is already in simplest form. We have 2 to 16. So we're going to go ahead and divide out a 2 because we want to go ahead and get a unit rate. Okay, so we're going to have 1/8. So far we're looking pretty proportional because both of our unit rates are 1/8. Let's go ahead and try this one. If we have 3 to 24, go ahead and divide out a 3. We have 1 to 8. So our data is proportional here. Alright, I want you to look really carefully at our different units that we're comparing here. Here we're talking about coffee and pounds. So for each extra bag of coffee is going to cost more, right? So that's how we know that it is proportional because each bag of coffee is priced the same. So if you get another bag, then you're just adding that much more on, that much more on. So we are going to have a proportional relationship. Now, when we're looking down here, the number of spiders and the number of legs, so obviously each additional spider you add on 8 more legs every time. So that's how we know that we're proportional. All right, let's go ahead and look at two different examples over here. So what we're going to be given is some information, and we're going to have to come up with a relationship, come up with an equation, and solve for our value, okay? All right, let's go ahead and look at example number 4. It says the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 4 is about 12.56 meters. What would the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 6 be? So in this case, we're comparing the circumference and the diameter. We're using that information and we're going to come up with a proportional circle and with a proportional diameter. So we're looking for, let's see, it says what would the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 6 be? So we're looking for the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 6. And we are given the information about a different circle, about a proportional circle. So it's saying that the circumference of this other circle is 12.56 meters with a diameter of 4. So basically what we're doing here is comparing two different circles. And we are going to make another proportional circle. So in this example, our diameter of 4, and this example we have a diameter of 6. In this example we have a circumference of 12.56, and we're going to solve for our proportional circumference. Okay, so basically now that we've set up our equation, we're going to go ahead and solve for our variable, which is c, standing for the circumference. So in this case, we want to get c by itself, right? Because we want to know what the circumference is. So we're going to go ahead and multiply by 6. Now the reason why I'm multiplying by 6 is because we want to undo what we did to this side so that we can undo it on this side as well, so we can figure out what the circumference is by itself. So we're going to go ahead, and since we divided 6 over here, we're going to multiply to undo it, and we're going to go ahead and multiply by a 6 over here. Alright, so after you've figured out what you need to do to solve for c, you just go ahead and multiply across and then divide, and you're going to get your circumference of 18.84. Now the good thing is that you don't have to just guess that that's the answer. You can check it. So if you want to check it, you can go ahead and put it back in for c. So 18.84 divided by 6, and you could do 12.56 divided by 4, and you should get the same number because they should be proportional or balanced. Alright, let's go ahead and look at number 5. This one's very similar. We're going to do the same process, except we're just have a different type of example. So it says 2.5 pounds of beef cost $7.20. How much is 4 pounds of beef? So right now we are trying to look for how much does it cost for 4 pounds of beef if it costs $7.20 for 2.5 pounds or 2.5 pounds. So now that we know what we're solving for how much this new amount of beef will cost, we're going to go ahead and solve for the variable. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in a variable here. I'm going to put a c for cost. So how much does 4 pounds of beef cost? So now, in order to solve for c, we need to multiply by 4 on both sides because we're dividing by 4 originally. So in order to undo our division, we have to multiply or do the inverse. So we're going to go ahead and multiply by 4 over here and multiply by 4 over here. So then you just go ahead and multiply and then divide, and you'll get that 4 pounds of beef costs $11.52. And just like I said up here, you do not have to guess, especially if you're on a quiz or a test and it really, really counts against you. You want to check your answers to make sure you're right. That's always what a smart math student does. Always check their answers because you don't have to just guess. Alright, so if we have $11.52, you could do that divided by 4. You can do 720 divided by 2.5, and you should get the same number because it should be balanced. Alright, as always, make sure you have all your notes on the front of the board and the back of the board. And now let's go ahead and do some on your own questions. Alright, you have 2 problems to solve for me. For the first one, go ahead and look at the data and look at the comparison between the blue paint and the yellow paint and tell me whether or not that data is proportional or not. Number 2, go ahead and read the word problem, and go ahead, you have to do 2 things for me. You have to first write an equation that relates the cost to the number of gallons of gas, and then you have to tell me how much 18.5 gallons of gas costs. Good luck, we'll see what you get tomorrow.